Jake Mallory had never been the kind of man to crave attention. Quiet engineer stationed at the Helios. Summit Stationa, floating diplomatic hub orbiting the planet Arkeen, Iva Jake, preferred wires, circuits, and mechanical systems over politics and alien debates. That day, the grand hall of the station buzzed with representatives from more than 30 alien species, each more colorful and eccentric than the last. Banners in multiple languages hung from the ceilings, translators hummed. In the background, and the smell of exotic food drifted through the air like perfume. Jake, wearing a dusty maintenance suit and carrying a toolkit, was on a ladder fixing a broken light panel directly above the delegates. He had been stuck up there for over an hour, listening to intergalactic debates that seemed to go in circles. The topic at hand? Interspecies marriage laws. The ambassadors argued endlessly. Some believed cross-species unions were the key to peace. Others called them biological chaos. Jake rolled his eyes as the conversation grew louder and more dramatic, each species trying to sound more enlightened than the other. His arm ached from holding a circuit board in place, and with a mix of sarcasm and exhaustion, he muttered loud enough for the entire room to hear, "If anyone's desperate enough to marry a human, I'm available." It was meant as a joke. A tired man's comment lost in a sea of noise. But the room went silent. At first, Jake didn't notice. He was still adjusting a wire. Then he felt it, the weight of dozens of eyes suddenly fixed on him. He looked down and saw every alien in the hall staring at him, some with shock, others with amusement, and a few even recording the moment on their devices. But what truly froze him in place was the presence that had just walked through the tall, shimmering entrance doors. An alien woman, if the word woman could even do justice to her appearance, stepped forward with graceful, measured steps. She stood over 6 feet tall, her skin silver and smooth like liquid metal, and her eyes glowed a deep crimson. A long cloak trailed behind her, adorned with symbols that shimmered like stars. Her expression was unreadable, calm, and focused entirely on Jake. Before he could react or apologize for his joke, she raised a hand with slow precision and spoke, her voice calm and ringing with quiet authority. "Proposal acknowledged," she said in perfectly translated English. "I accept." Jake blinked. The room blinked. For a moment no one knew what to say. Some of the diplomats stifled laughter, others gasped, and a few exchanged curious glances, whispering in their own languages. Jake, still standing awkwardly on the ladder, felt heat rush to his face. "Wait, what?" he stammered, nearly dropping. His toolkit. It wasn't actually, but the alien woman had already stepped closer, tilting her head as if studying him with great interest. "You offered your bond in public in the presence of witnesses," she said. "According to Sci-Fi law, I have answered with acceptance. A union is now recognized." Jake's mind struggled to keep up. Sci-Fi. He'd heard of that species. In passing, rare, elusive, politically neutral, and known for avoiding long-term alliances. Most referred to them as vampire-like, though they drank synthesized plasma and didn't actually bite, kept to themselves, powerful and mysterious. And now apparently one of them had just ... agreed to marry him? Jake climbed down from the ladder carefully, his boots clanking on the metal floor. "Listen, miss ... he began, trying to steady his voice. "I didn't mean that seriously. It was just a joke. You know, human humor." The Cerbari woman didn't flinch. "I am Velis Achon of the House of Stars, and your words were clear. Among my people, jest or not, such a statement carries weight." Her gaze didn't waver. "Are you now dishonoring your own word?" Jake froze. Around him, the murmuring returned. Someone took a photo. Others whispered about the political implications. Saravari, accepting a bond from a human. "That hadn't happened in recorded history," Velis continued calmly. "I understand. Human customs may differ, but to withdraw now would be seen as disrespect toward my house." Jake opened his mouth to argue, but stopped himself. This wasn't just about him anymore. The air felt heavier, the mood shifting. What had started as a joke was quickly becoming a situation that could have consequences, maybe even diplomatic ones. He glanced around the room, then back at Velis, who stood with the quiet confidence of someone used to commanding attention. And in that moment, Jake realized something important. The joke had echoed in a room full of powerful beings, and someone had taken it seriously, not out of humor, but out of purpose. Why would someone like her, a high-ranking alien noble, answer a casual human joke with acceptance? What did she stand to gain? And more importantly, why him? Jake felt a strange knot twist in his chest. Whatever the reason, he knew one thing. For sure, his quiet days of fixing lights and avoiding attention were over. Something had just begun. Something far stranger than any joke could have predicted. Jake. Mallory didn't sleep much the night after his accidental engagement, though it wasn't from excitement, it was from pure confusion. The name Velis Akin now echoed in every corner of Helios Summit Station. Everyone was talking about the human who proposed to a Saravari noblewoman. Jake wished they would stop calling it a proposal at all. He had only made a sarcastic comment while fixing a light, but that didn't matter anymore. According to Saravari law, a proposal made in a formal setting, in front of witnesses, was legally binding, unless both parties agreed to cancel it. And Velis wasn't backing out. She was calm, serious, and showed no signs of being confused or amused. She genuinely believed the union was not just valid, but honorable. Velis arrived at the station's administrative office the next morning wearing a high-collared cloak, woven with some kind of stardust fabric. She carried a silver-bound agreement scroll and requested Jake's presence with such formality that even the station commander stood up straighter. Jake, half-dressed and still brushing his teeth, was dragged into a meeting room where Velis politely introduced her personal legal advisor, who then began reading out sections of a complex interspecies prenup that involved diplomatic immunity, trade permissions, and something called Plasma Harmony Clause. Jake, barely understanding any of it, kept glancing at Velis, hoping for a sign that this was all just a test or maybe a prank. But she was entirely serious, and more than that, she was focused. Jake's coworkers, especially his best friend, Ravi, tried to talk him through the chaos, even contacted the human embassy, hoping to find a loophole in Saravari law. But the moment the diplomats realized the engagement could benefit relations with a neutral powerhouse species, they urged Jake to consider the alliance. Suddenly, Jake wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was becoming a political symbol. That's when Velis started following him. She claimed it was part of the bonding observation period, a tradition among her people to learn about the habits and nature of one's future partner. Jake found it both amusing and deeply awkward. She followed him to the engineering bay, watched him eat cereal with great interest, and once even stood silently beside him for an hour while he fixed a water filter. She asked questions like, why do humans put marshmallows in hot drinks? And does sarcasm carry legal consequences? Jake tried to explain human humor, but Velis struggled to understand jokes unless they were explained line by line. One time, she repeated a pun she had heard from a comedy show, but her delivery was so robotic that the room fell into silence before bursting into uncomfortable laughter. The cultural differences only became more obvious with time. Velis drank plasma, synthetic red liquid filled with energy particles, and stored it in elegant glass containers that she carried in a pouch across her chest. Jake, on the other hand, lived on vending machine burritos and instant noodles. In total silence for 3 hours each morning, he woke up 5 minutes before work and forgot where he left his shoes. And yet something about her curiosity made Jake hesitate every time he thought of walking away. She wasn't mocking him. She wasn't forcing him. He was trying. And though she didn't understand his world, she treated it with respect, but something didn't sit right with Jake. Velis claimed the proposal benefited both parties. Yet she never really explained why she accepted it so quickly. That's when he started asking questions not just about Saravari culture, but about Velis herself. During a quiet walk near the station's observation deck, he asked, "Why me? Why not one of those actual diplomats in there?" Velis was quiet for a long time. She looked out into the stars, her crimson eyes reflecting the light of a distant nebula. Then she finally said, "Because you were the only one who spoke freely. Everyone else hides behind words. You didn't." It sounded honest, but Jake could feel something else in her voice. Not fear, but caution. Later that day, while searching for something in the ship's archives, Jake accidentally stumbled onto a recent report filed by the station's security division. It mentioned a warning from a scout vessel. A group of ships belonging to the Kareth Syndicate had been spotted near Saravari territory. The Kareth were a rival species, known for long-standing hostility toward the Saravari. They believed the Saravari's ability to manipulate energy flows gave them too much advantage. And there had been minor skirmishes over the years, quiet ones, kept away from public view. But now they were getting closer, more aggressive. Jake's chest tightened. This wasn't just about a proposal anymore. Velis was part of a noble house, one that might be in danger. Her sudden acceptance of a bond with a human, especially one stationed far from Saravari space, might not have been about diplomacy at all. It might have been a form of protection, a shield. Jake sat back in his chair, the quiet hum of the station's systems surrounding him. The joke he had shouted in frustration had opened a door into a world far larger and more dangerous than he imagined. And now, whether he liked it or not, he was part of it. Jake Mallory's arrival in Saravari space was nothing like he had expected. The moment his ship passed through the shimmering plasma curtain that marked the entrance to the Saravari home system, a strange mixture of awe and nervousness settled over him. The station was surrounded by glowing nebulae that painted the sky in vibrant blues and purples, casting an otherworldly light on everything below. When Velis greeted him at the airlock, her silver skin gleamed softly under the starlit halls of the palace where she lived. The building was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. High ceilings that seemed to stretch into infinity, walls that pulsed faintly with energy, and strange instruments that played haunting music with invisible strings like a laser harp. They moved through this place with careful grace, and everywhere Jake went, attendants bowed or curtsied, treating him like royalty. Yet despite the grandeur, a shadow lingered on Velis's face, something unspoken but heavy. Over a cup of psychic tea, an aromatic drink that seemed to reveal memories and emotions with every sip, Velis finally shared the truth. Her noble house was under intense political pressure from rival factions within the galaxy. The Saravari were a proud and ancient people, but their influence was waning, and enemies were closing in. The marriage to a human, a species known for its unpredictability and neutrality, was no accident. It was a calculated move, a way to shift the delicate balance of power. Jake listened, surprised and somewhat overwhelmed by the weight of his unintended role in these ancient politics. However, instead of feeling like a pawn, he found a spark of determination. Humans adapt, he told Velis with a small, genuine smile. If I've got to be your partner for politics, I might as well be a good one. This simple statement seemed to lift some of the tension between them. Soon Jake was thrust into the complex world of Saravari bureaucracy, where diplomacy was a game of subtle words and veiled threats. When a rival Saravari faction tried to trap Velis in a political scandal during a council meeting, it was Jake's straightforward, sarcastic remark, something he considered a joke, that confused the opponents and bought them enough time to escape. The concept of sarcasm was foreign to the Saravari, who prized honesty and precision, and Jake used this to their advantage. Just as it seemed they might find a fragile peace, an emissary from the rival faction appeared, delivering a chilling message. The blood union will not stand. The words hung heavy in the air, a clear warning that their union and everything it represented was in danger. Jake realized then that this marriage was not just a matter of law or ceremony, but a battle that would test their courage, trust, and perhaps the future of two worlds. Jake Mallory had never imagined that proving himself worthy of an alien marriage would involve a series of formal trials, let alone one that required baking an apple pie in a palace filled with glowing stars and mysterious technology. The Saravari tradition was strict and ancient. 3 trials of bonding designed to test diplomacy, intuition, and survival. Each trial seemed daunting on its own, but combined, they were meant to reveal the true nature of a partner. The first trial was a test of diplomacy, which put Jake in a council meeting alongside Velis, where he had to negotiate a delicate agreement between competing noble houses. Jake was more comfortable with machinery than politics, but he surprised everyone by using straightforward human logic and occasionally well-placed dad jokes to ease tension and build trust. While his humor was sometimes lost in translation, it broke the ice and brought unexpected goodwill. The second trial focused on intuition, requiring Jake to navigate a labyrinth of psychic illusions designed to reveal his true feelings and instincts. Though initially confused by the visions and emotional waves, Jake relied on his simple human ability to stay calm and observe carefully, remembering lessons from his own unpredictable world. However, the most curious and memorable trial awaited him, the third, which required him to present a dish that represented his soul. Velis watched with interest as Jake pulled out a small solar-powered food replicator from his kit, a device far simpler than the Saravari's elegant technology, but surprisingly effective. Jake decided to make an apple pie, a humble but deeply meaningful earth dessert he remembered from childhood, a symbol of home, warmth, and care. When the pie was served to Velis, her initial confusion melted into wonder as she tasted the flaky crust and sweet filling. To the delight of everyone present, Velis declared it a sacred human offering, sparking curiosity and admiration that quickly spread beyond the palace halls. Apple pie suddenly became the talk of many species, earning a strange but genuine place in galactic culture. Just as Jake felt the trials were winding down, an unexpected danger emerged. During the final moments of the survival trial, the rival Kareth Syndicate launched a surprise attack on the Saravari Palace, aiming to disrupt the political alliance and undermine Velis's house. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the elegant halls turned chaotic. Jake and Velis had to escape together through ancient, narrow tunnels hidden beneath the palace baths used centuries ago during wars and betrayals. The journey through the escape system tested their trust and courage as they faced dark corridors, expected traps, and their own fears. Yet, amid the danger, laughter broke through the awkward moments when Jake tripped over his own feet or Velis struggled to understand human jokes, became the glue that bonded them beyond ceremony. They protected one another, shared stories of home, and discovered a friendship that neither of them had expected. When they finally emerged into the cool night air under a sky full of stars, they were no longer just bound by tradition or politics. They were partners in every sense, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. The day of the final ceremony arrived with a quiet, expectant tension hanging over the Saravari Palace. Jake Mallory stood in the grand hall, surrounded by the shimmering light of alien crystals and the soft murmur of the High Council members. The choice before him was clear, yet heavy. He could formally accept the marriage, embracing not only Velis but the weighty diplomatic alliance that came with her noble house. Or he could decline, respectfully stepping away from a world he had stumbled into by accident, leaving Velis and the fragile peace between their peoples uncertain. As he looked at Velis, standing with serene grace in her silver robes, Jake felt the enormity of the moment press down on him, but also something more personal, a connection that had grown beyond politics and obligation. Velis surprised him when she quietly confessed she had never expected to find anything human in her rigid world worth liking. Yet Jake had proven her wrong. He was more than a walking wildcard. He was kind, genuine, and willing to learn a partner, not a pawn. That honesty unlocked something in Jake. When the time came to speak before the council, he let go of the nervousness that had clung to him since his arrival and spoke from the heart. "We humans," he said plainly, "may not have fangs or glowing rituals, but we show up, we try, we learn, and sometimes we fall in love in the strangest places, even in a joke. I didn't expect to be here, but I'm here now. To stand with Velis not just because it's expected, but because I believe in what we can build together." The room was silent for a moment, then a wave of respect and cautious hope rippled through the council. When the ceremony began, it was unlike any Jake had ever imagined. There were no grand fireworks or thunderous proclamations, just a quiet exchange of vows under the starlit arches of the palace, hands joined and eyes meeting with a sincere warmth. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath as news spread. The human who joked too loudly at a diplomatic mixer had become a symbol of unity. Across species, and the apple pie Jake had baked during the trials of bonding. It became a surprising emblem of goodwill, a new kind of currency in intergalactic relations, shared in meetings and celebrations far beyond Saravari space. After the formalities, in a rare moment of quiet, Velis handed Jake a delicate cup filled with the glowing psychic tea she treasured. He hesitated, then took a sip into her amusement. He liked it. The marriage that began with a careless joke had grown into something real, something hopeful. Two very different worlds had found common ground, not just through politics, but through understanding, respect, and unexpected friendship. And so, as the stars twinkled overhead, Jake and Velis stepped forward together, ready to face whatever the future held, united not only by law, but by choice.